I didn't rent the cabin to escape anyone. I just needed quiet, somewhere to breathe without hearing traffic, or neighbors, or my own phone ringing every 10 minutes. The listing showed a small wooden cabin deep in the woods, a few hours from the nearest town. The photos looked peaceful. Sunlight through tall trees, a small lake nearby, nothing but green. It felt safe enough. The first night was uneventful. Cold, but calm. I unpacked, made tea, and listened to the sound of the forest outside. It was dense, but not threatening, just alive. I remember thinking the woods had a rhythm of their own. Every creak of the trees felt natural, predictable, like breathing. The second morning, I woke up to something strange. The back door was open. Not wide, just a few inches. I knew I had locked it. I even remember hearing the click. There were no footprints, no sign of animals, but I shut it tight and double-checked the latch. I told myself it was the wind. Around noon, I went for a short walk down a trail behind the cabin. It should have looped back toward the road, but halfway through I noticed small ribbons tied around the trees. Red, faded, like old cloth strips. They didn't look like trail markers, more like warnings. I didn't remember seeing them the day before. I told myself they must have been there all along and turned back before it got dark. That night, the forest changed. It sounded heavier. The air was colder, and the quiet wasn't peaceful anymore. It was waiting. Every time I moved, the sound of leaves followed, not loud enough to call footsteps, but close. I kept telling myself it was my imagination, that the woods amplified sound, that I was just unused to silence. Still, every time I stopped walking, so did the noise. When I got back inside, the air smelled wrong, wet wood, almost rotten. The window facing the forest was fogged from the inside, as if something had been breathing against it. I cleaned it with my sleeve, and for a second, I thought I saw movement in the tree line. A figure maybe. My pulse raced, but there was nothing there when I looked again. Just branches swaying. The next morning, I found something new, a mark carved into one of the porch posts. A shape I didn't recognize, almost like an eye. I'd never noticed it before, and I'd sat right next to that post the previous night. When I tried to touch it, my fingers came back black with sap. I wanted to leave in, but the car wouldn't start. The engine turned, but it was as if something held it still. The air smelled like rain though the sky was clear. I walked to the edge of the trail again, thinking I could make it to the main road, but every turn led me back to the same clearing. The same trees. The same fallen log with the red ribbon tied around it. It didn't make sense. I tried marking my path with stones, with sticks, anything, but every time I returned, the marks were gone, like the forest had swallowed them. My phone showed no signal, even though it had worked the day before. That night, I stopped trying to rationalize it. The noise outside the cabin wasn't random anymore. It was pacing. Around the walls, circling, sometimes brushing against the wood. At one point, it stopped right at the door, and the handle moved, just a slight turn, enough to hear metal scrape against metal. I didn't open it. I couldn't. I sat there until morning, holding my flashlight though I never turned it on. Light felt useless. By the fourth day, the forest was silent again. Not peaceful, empty. No birds, no wind, nothing. I stepped outside because staying in the cabin felt worse. The red ribbons were closer now, tied to the porch rail, to the mailbox, even to my car antenna. They fluttered slightly, though there was no breeze. When I looked deeper into the trees, I saw shapes between the trunks, tall, still shapes that didn't move with the rest of the forest. Not animals. Not people. Just outlines darker than shadow, positioned like they were watching. My knees almost gave out, but I couldn't move. It was like they were holding me in place, waiting for me to step forward. I went back inside and locked everything again. It didn't matter. The house felt wrong now, smaller, tilted somehow, as if the walls were breathing with me. Every time I blinked, the carved mark on the porch post seemed deeper, spreading like cracks under the paint. When the night came again, I stopped fighting it. I remember sitting by the window, staring out at the woods. The reflection in the glass didn't move the same way I did. When I leaned forward, it stayed still. When I turned my head, it didn't. It just watched me. The next thing I remember is waking up on the dirt road with the car door open. Morning light. Silence. The cabin was gone, just foundation stones and burned wood. I walked until I found a ranger station. They told me there hadn't been a cabin in that area for years, not since a fire in 2012. I didn't argue. I just handed them the keys I still had in my pocket. The metal was cold, damp, and sticky with sap. Now, weeks later, I still wake up at night hearing the same sound, branches creaking, like wood bending under weight. Sometimes I think it's just the wind. Other times, I swear it's the forest trying to find its way back to me.